Okay, let's dive straight into this explainer and completely dismantle what you thought you knew about the money in your pocket. Right now, to most of us, money is just this everyday tool, right? We use it to grab a coffee, pay rent. We really don't give it a second thought. But its history, it is a sweeping, wild epic of human psychology, power, and relentless innovation. Today, we're going to capture the absolute essentials of Glyn Davies' incredible book, A History of Money, in 8 minutes or less. We're tracing the entire lifespan of currency to see exactly where we've been, and more importantly, where our digital future is taking us. Let's get into it. Think about this incredible visual evolution. We go from a simple cowrie shell to a carved wooden tally stick, all the way to a modern smart card. At first glance, these objects literally have nothing in common. I mean, one's a shell from the ocean, one's wood, and the other is plastic embedded with a microchip. Yet, they share an unbroken, continuous bloodline. They are all just technologies that we humans have used to account for debts, credits, and obligations to one another.
Section 1. Beyond Economics. Early Origins. To really grasp how we got here, we've got to start at the very beginning. Now, we usually assume money was invented purely to solve the problems of barter. You know the story. I have chickens, you have shoes, let's invent money to make this trade easier. Actually, scratch that. Money was born out of psychology and society. Ancient humans desperately needed a way to quantify abstract, heavily emotional obligations. They needed a medium to pay tributes to rulers, to arrange marriages with bride money, to settle violent disputes through blood money, and even to make offerings to the gods. So money was a social and religious necessity way, way before it became an economic convenience. And before we get to those shiny metallic coins we usually picture when we think of ancient wealth, we really have to understand what experts call primitive money. This concept dominated most of human history. The definition is pretty straightforward. It's basically all money that is not a coin, or like modern paper money, a derivative of a coin. And because money is wonderfully adaptable, almost anything could serve this purpose, as long as the society agreed on its value. Which leads us to a bizarre array of items being used as money all over the globe. We're talking everything from Native American wampum and cattle to woodpecker feathers, and yes, even vodka. Cattle, for instance, were essentially man's first working capital asset. If a community found something to be scarce, durable, and highly desirable, they just figured out a way to transact with it. It's a pretty amazing testament to human ingenuity. This social function really peaked in Native American potlatch ceremonies. In these, wealth wasn't just traded, it was aggressively given away, or sometimes even destroyed, purely to validate a chief's social standing. Imagine gathering your entire community and throwing your most valuable possessions into a fire just to prove you were wealthy enough to absorb the loss. It was this fiercely competitive gift exchange that cemented political hierarchies, proving once again that the roots of money are deeply tangled up in human ego and status. Now, moving along our timeline, it is honestly shocking to realize that writing and banking predated the invention of coins by thousands of years. Think about that. Sumerian bookkeeping emerged around 3100 BC, and by 1600 BC, the Babylonians had these incredibly sophisticated banking systems. All of this complex financial architecture existed completely without coins. In fact, the very act of writing was largely invented just to keep track of these financial ledgers.
Section 2. Coins, Empires, and Debasement.
So the next major era kicks off when the Lydians and Greeks introduced stamped metallic coins around 600 BC. This made wealth standardized and super portable, and man, it became the fuel for massive empires. When Alexander the Great later monetized these enormous Persian gold stocks, he brought the gold-to-silver ratio down to a highly convenient 10-to-1. This massively stimulated global trade. He basically conquered territories, took their stagnant hoards of treasure, minted them into coins, and absolutely flooded the ancient world with liquidity. That 10-to-1 ratio made accounting and cross-border trade easier than ever before. It was an economic boom of truly epic proportions. But as we see with Rome, coins had a fatal flaw. Early on, Roman expansion brought in plentiful silver. But when that physical expansion stopped, their expenses sure didn't. To pay the armies, emperors like Aurelian and Diocletian started mixing cheap base metals into the silver coins. The money lost its real value, prices absolutely skyrocketed, and this financial chaos helped cripple the entire empire.
Section 3. The Paper Money Revolution.
This historic cycle of heavy metal constraints eventually forces a massive shift. The invention of the printing press finally released money from its metallic chains, creating a totally new wheel for commerce. Think about it.
Minting physical coins was heavily restricted by how much metal you could physically pull out of the earth. It was costly and heavy, but paper was abstract. It was cheap to produce, and crucially, it offered an unlimited supply potential. It allowed economies to scale rapidly, but it handed governments a dangerously tempting tool.
Section 4. The quality to quantity pendulum.
This constant tension between rare physical metals and easy paper brings us to the core meta-theory of this entire 3,000-year history. It's a pendulum cycle. A society invents high-quality money, governments eventually print or mint way too much of it, the currency crashes, and then they're forced to start over. It is a story that repeats again, again, and again. As the quote goes, in the chronology of oscillation, quality comes first. As quantity increases, so quality generally falls. Whenever the quantity of money is artificially pumped up to solve a short-term problem, the inherent quality of that money degrades.
Which brings us to a huge question. Looking at our modern fiat currencies, which are completely unanchored from gold, have we escaped this historical cycle, or are we just swinging faster? Today, we don't even need to print paper. Central banks can literally create billions with a few keystrokes. Are we managing this unprecedented power better than the Romans did? Or are we simply speeding up the inevitable oscillation between sound money and runaway inflation? Section 5. Towards a global currency.
We are now watching the concept of money transcend physical borders entirely. Modern shifts, like the 2002 introduction of the euro, electronic funds transfers, smart cards, and satellite banking, are completely erasing geographic boundaries. We're rapidly moving toward a globally unified financial system. We've gone from trading local cowrie shells to beaming digital credits up into space and back down to a merchant terminal in a fraction of a second. Technology is doing to national borders exactly what paper did to heavy gold, making them increasingly irrelevant to the flow of wealth.
But as our world rapidly abandons physical cash for digital abstraction, we are left to face the ultimate paradox of modern money. What happens to the power of that pendulum in a completely cashless global society? When money is literally nothing more than digital data managed by complex international networks, what tethers it to reality? Who controls the quantity? And how do we protect the quality when an entire globe is running on the exact same digital grid?
The writer Dostoevsky once observed, "Money is coined liberty." It represents our freedom to choose, our ability to trade our labor for the things we need and want. But that liberty only exists if the money holds its value and its trust. Understanding this incredible 3,000-year journey is really the only way we can navigate the massive shifts happening right under our feet today. As we hand our financial liberty over to the digital cloud, we really have to ask ourselves who is actually holding the keys. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to In 8 Minutes and never miss what matters.